All right, guys, so this is going to be a very, very, very fast video here covering the layers of the cerebellar cortex and just general afferent information. So what we got is we have two types of fibers that come into the cerebellum, right? And they're going to go to the cerebellar cortex, and let's talk about it. So the first type is climbing fibers, and it's going to be this blue here. So climbing fibers. The only afferent tract that is really going to be mentioned here is going to be the afferent tracts coming from the inferior olivary nucleus. So think that's just one of the tracts that do proprioception from the spine. And the inferior olivary nucleus also gets information from other structures like the red nucleus in the midbrain and the cortex. And then all other afferent fibers are going to get into the cerebellum from what is called mossy fibers. So what's the difference between these? So climbing fibers are going to come up. First off, they're going to, so our deep cerebellar nuclei here, so remember dentate, emboliform, globus, and fastigial, it's going to synapse on whatever one that we're talking about. And then it's going to synapse here, and it's going to release a stimulatory neurotransmitter. So it's going to stimulate whatever deep cerebellar nuclei we're talking about. It is then going to go up and then synapse with the Purkinje layer, or depending on what you're referencing, it'll come up here and then coil around the dendrites of the Purkinje cell. But either way, it communicates with the Purkinje cell directly, and then releases a stimulatory neurotransmitter, and then sends it down to the Purkinje cell, sends it down, and then it is going to inhibit whatever deep cerebellar nuclei we have. So with the climbing fibers, it is going to stimulate whatever deep cerebellar nuclei we're talking about, but then it is going to quickly inhibit the deep cerebellar nuclei by way of the Purkinje cell. And that's going to be really important in not overshooting our movement. And that really fine motor control is called neural sharpening, and this is how they do that. The mossy fibers, on the other hand, they are going to synapse on a different cell in the granular layer called your granular cells. It's going to release a stimulatory neurotransmitter. It's going to stimulate the granular layer. It's going to have axons that come up through the Purkinje layer and into the molecular layer, and then they are going to run what is called parallel fibers, and it's going to go all throughout the cerebellar cortex. And what it does, it's going to stimulate the Purkinje via a stimulatory message, and then it is going to come down, and also the Purkinje is also going to come down and send a inhibitory, and it does the same thing here. So regardless of whether we're talking about climbing or mossy fibers, it is going to initially stimulate the deep cerebellar nuclei, but then it is going to, by way of the Purkinje fiber, inhibit that deep cerebellar nuclei. So in review, when it comes to the cerebellar cortex, the layers, we have the molecular layer, the Purkinje layer, and the granular layer. The molecular layer, it has a whole lot of different cells, but the main things that we need to worry about are the parallel fibers and then the dendrites of the Purkinje cell. The Purkinje cell has the Purkinje neuronal cell body, and then the granular layer has our granular cells, which our mossy fiber is going to synapse onto. So climbing fibers versus mossy fiber. Climbing fibers are coming from the inferior olivary nucleus. They're going to the Purkinje cell itself. So whether we're talking about the molecular or the Purkinje layer, and then the mossy fibers go directly to the granular layer, and then it does the tomfoolery from there. All right, hope that was quick.